Hey everyone, in today's episode, I'll discuss Melbourne's inner city. It's probably one of the most, I'd say, Googled areas of Melbourne, and it's also one of the most popular because Melbourne's obviously known for being a very sort of gentrified, sort of hip, urban kind of city, and the inner city really does, I'd say, have all of that. It's probably, one of the most, I'd say, visited areas of Melbourne as well. And it's also one of the most in-demand areas of Melbourne. So it's a great area to discuss, I guess, in this episode. And what I'll discuss today is, firstly, where Melbourne's inner city is. Secondly, the inner city living, what it's about and what you can expect in the inner city. And third of all, the top 3 suburbs to live in. And finally, the top 3 suburbs to invest in. Look, where is Melbourne's inner city? And look, this is just off census, and I don't really count this whole region as Melbourne's inner city. Where I count as Melbourne's inner city is the northern boundary. So it's the Yarra Council region. So it's the northern boundary, basically, of the Yarra. So it's Richmond right across to West Melbourne and up from there. And then I cut it off at basically Alington, Northcote, Brunswick East and the surrounding suburbs there. That's really the inner city. Like, you could argue Coburg is, but I don't really think it is. Simply because, it's not really that close to the city and it doesn't really feel like that inner city anymore. Whereas, you can still argue, obviously, your Flemington, Ascot Vale, Brunswick, Northcote, they all still feel like the inner city. So it's like, that's the inner city area I'm talking about. And it's also because the growth of that area, there is a bit of a difference between it. So it is quite important to consider that as well. Look, what the inner city living is about is, unsurprisingly, there's strong demographics in this area. Look, you do have, when I say strong demographics, it is strong even in suburbs that historically have a bit of a bad stigma to them. So that's really good. Another thing about the inner city, I'd call it similar to a lot of inner Europe. Like, smaller families are quite common in the inner city. There's a lot of people with only one child in the inner city, like especially that live in the smaller homes. And there's many childless couples. So you have a lot of couples that have no children who might even be in their 40s that actually live here. It's quite common. There's a mix of high and low density properties here. So some of your wealthier suburbs are more low density. Some of your I'd say, more busier suburbs are generally high density, and you obviously have some apartment blocks in there too. It's mostly smaller lot sizes now. A normal lot in Melbourne's inner city is anywhere from probably about 180 metres squared right up to about 350. Anything over 350 metres squared is considered quite large in Melbourne's inner city. So you'd expect at least probably a 20%, premium on a lot that's above, especially above 400 metres squared. Like, some of them go for millions of dollars even. So that's just something to consider in Melbourne's inner city. The walkability is great. This area is pretty much the most walkable area in all of Australia. So I'm pretty sure Carlton is the most walkable suburb in all of Australia from memory. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of suburbs here that have above a 90 walk score. So it's good for that. And it's very good for transport as well. Trams, trains in some of the suburbs too, buses everywhere. So a lot of people don't even have cars here, to give you an idea. Look, with the strong demographics, there is also a high percentage of professionals here. Some of these suburbs have nearly 70% professional workers and managers, so it's just incredible. Some of the highest in the country. There's a lot of development restrictions on some of these areas, so some areas do have units, but the areas that don't, generally you'll find a lot of it's heritage listed. Mind you, heritage listing in the inner city and in most of Melbourne doesn't matter that much. It depends what heritage controls they have. So it might be, for example, a paint control or a solar control. There's no issue with that. But it's when you can't change the structure of the building or anything like that it becomes difficult. But there's some of that in the inner city, so you do need to be wary of it. My apologies. The other thing is you got good access to jobs. Obviously, there's a lot of jobs around there. You got, the city as well being nearby. You've got the Q Law precinct. You got obviously the other council regions that are close to. So it's good for getting the jobs, particularly if you don't have a car. And it's probably best known for the restaurants, culture and cafes, the little, cafes down the little alleys, the restaurants, on Lygon Street, and all the cultural events that you get along there, the festivals and all that kind of thing. So that's probably what it's best known for. Let's get into the best suburbs to live in. And the first one I'm going to mention is a suburb that really is quite low density, funny enough, and it's also quite an affluent suburb, and that suburb is Clifton Hill. Now, Clifton Hill is kind of in the northeast pocket of the Yarra. It is surrounded basically by the Yarra River. And it's mostly a detached home and attached house suburb. There's very few units in this suburb. You get a lot of homes that look quite similar to this, like your standard Victorians and Edwardian sort of homes, which is really good. Very well maintained. It is quite an expensive suburb for the inner city though. You're paying probably about $1.7 million to live in Clifton Hill. In saying that though, I've found properties right down to about 1.4, which is good for the suburb. And I mean, the suburb itself, it's got excellent proximity, it's quiet, and it's also quite beautiful. So you'll see here, this is just an article from Domain. Clifton Hill, the serene suburb, only 4 k's from the Melbourne CBD. So you've got plenty of greenery, plenty of parkland. It's a good suburb for families that want a bit of the inner city but a bit quieter. So that's sort of Clifton Hill, and the income's very high here. So I mean, I found properties with 3.5 to 4% yield here. Not 4%, but I found them with 3.5 to probably 3.8%. Sorry, in terms of yield, which is quite good. And longer term, this is a great place to live. It's quite a tightly held suburb because it's so good to live there as well. Let's get into the next one. Another good suburb to live in Melbourne, and this suburb is probably one of the best tree-lined suburbs of the inner city, and that suburb is Alington. That Alington is literally only just, it's only a suburb north basically of Clifton Hill. It's very close to Clifton Hill, but you get a lot of streets similar to this that are just completely green, tree-lined, very beautiful, and really good sort of family area. It's mostly low density as well, mostly low density and detached homes. There's more detached homes here probably than any other suburb of the inner city, I'd argue. So it's good in terms of density in that sense, but Alington too, the thing is, you've got really good jobs very close by. So this is just on the left here. The main job centres other than the CBD in Melbourne. So you can see Alington's basically, but it's kind of like close to between, if you draw sort of a curve going to the left between Heidelberg and Hawthorn, it's right in between both of them. And look, it's basically close to all these main job centres, which is really good. And you can clearly see here, because of that, the income demographics are incredible in Alington. So some of the strongest in all of Melbourne, and some of the best access as well, which is very handy for people that want to live in an area longer term. So it's definitely a suburb to consider in the inner city of Melbourne to live in. Let's finish up with probably the most popular, or maybe the most or second most popular in all of Melbourne, and that suburb is Colton North. Now, Colton North is pretty much the most popular suburb in all of Melbourne, mainly because of its walkability and all its access to all the culture, the cafes, restaurants, and everything like that you got there too. It's mostly comprised of small miners sort of cottages, Edwardian, your Victorian cottages, and detached terraced homes like this. But look, the real winner with Colton North is Lygon Street. The proximity to the CBD and great demographics. Lygon Street especially is known throughout basically all of Australia as one of the best places to go for restaurants and just a night out. I will remind everyone that Melbourne is a bit of a different city for anyone who hasn't been there. It is open quite late. Like in Sydney, most things would be shut by probably about 10:30. In Lygon Street, you'll find 10:30, 11 o'clock. It's still busy as hell. So don't be surprised. If you're a night owl, great spot to live as well. So really good suburb to consider in Lygon Street. And saying that, Clifton Hill, Alington, and Colton North are all excellent places to invest as well. All really good suburbs. So if you find a good deal or I come across a good deal and we're working together, I'm definitely going to present it to you because they all make sense. Very highly owner-occupied in terms of houses. So all really good suburbs in that to live in. Let's get into the top 3 suburbs to invest in Melbourne's inner city. And I'm going to start with one that I do mention quite a lot, but I'm going to continue to mention it again because I think it's one of the most underpriced suburbs in all of Melbourne. And that suburb is Cremon. So for those that don't know Cremon, look, it's basically I'd call it your MCG suburb of Melbourne. It's in a small pocket in the sort of south, I'd say, kind of your southwestern, southern corner of sort of Melbourne, and Richmond, sorry. And it's basically right across the parkland from the CBD. So if you look at this overhead image here, Cremon's basically just to the far bottom right of the image. That's what it looks like down in there. And it's a really, really good suburb because, I mean, you're close to all the most expensive suburbs of the country. Like you're literally across the river from Kooyong and Chirac, which are literally the most expensive suburbs in all of Melbourne. Kooyong has the highest median income actually of all of Melbourne. And Cremon is basically almost entirely, most of it is detached homes. And it's only about 1.2 to 1.3 million at the moment, which is incredible. I'm picking up stuff still for 1,150, sometimes even lower if you're lucky. And you have very good rent here. I've actually found properties with 3.8 to 4.1% yield here. And it's because the income demographics of Cremon are just incredible. So I know I said Kooyong has the highest median weekly income, household income in Melbourne, but Cremon actually has the second highest, and it's about a third of the price to a fourth of the price of Kooyong. So it's just incredible. A quarter, sorry. And if you look here, this is just off census. Median weekly household income, 2,959, so nearly $3,000 a week. Monthly mortgage repayments, 2,300 a month. So people, that 30% rule is crazy. People's income serviceability is like 20% here, which is insane when most suburbs in Australia are like 40. So it's almost double as good as that. But that number as well, the prices haven't gone up that much here in about 7 or 8 years, but the income's still increased. So that number would be well over 3,000 now. So it's just incredible numbers. One of the best suburbs to invest in all of Melbourne's inner city and all of Melbourne, to be honest, is Cremon. Let's get into another suburb, and it's not the club I'm going after here, but it is a suburb that's well known for its AFL, or should I say, footy club, and that suburb is Collingwood. Obviously, best known for its footy club and the Magpies, your black and whites. Like you can see here in one of their good years, where I'm sure Mr. Eddie Maguire was very happy in that time. But anyway, look, Collingwood really, to give everyone a bit of background, it was one of the very working class areas of Melbourne. It was actually really a slum suburb when Melbourne was first developed. You still do have the towers of Collingwood, don't get me wrong, with Housing Commission, you still do have them there. But in a lot of the other pockets and surrounding areas that are fine, it's such a good area to invest. I mean, Collingwood's done like 9 to 10% growth long term. And really what I'd say about Collingwood is it's gentrification on steroids. To give you an idea, this is just an article from The Domain, why Collingwood is one of Melbourne's most up-and-coming neighbourhoods. So Collingwood's still got in about 20% of public housing, and they're all basically in those towers that are there. But the median income is still well over $2,000 a week, and the monthly mortgage repayments are around that too. But that's including 20% of the suburb who either aren't working or on very low income. So that number is probably realistically somewhere around the late 2000s in terms of the people that actually live there, which is crazy. And a lot of Collingwood is going to be redeveloped. A lot of that public housing will change to private housing in years to come. And what you'll see is you'll have continually the more wealthy buyers wanting to buy here. So it's very good for all of that and a great suburb to consider in Melbourne's inner city. Look, you can still pick them up for about 1 to 1.1 million. I've even done less than $1 million before here, and you literally get I've found 4% yield here. Regularly, I've found late threes regularly. So really good suburb to invest in terms of your total return as well. Let's finish up with my final one. And I did post about this recently. I did get a little bit of hate of people saying, oh, this suburb's crap and all that kind of thing. And I understand if they haven't been there in about 15 years and they're listening to their father, grandfather talk about it or anything like that, and fine, each their own. But when we're talking about investment, I'm telling you, the only thing that matters is the numbers. And that suburb is Kensington. So look, Kensington is an inner city suburb of Melbourne. It's only about 3 km from the CBD. It's in the sort of inner northwest of Melbourne, and it is on one of the main train lines. It's only a couple of stops literally to Southern Cross and Flinders Station in Melbourne. So it's very close, very commutable, and close to a lot of North Melbourne's because it neighbours North Melbourne's employment as well. But Kensington really, it has gone through quite a transformation in recent decades. So you did have quite a working class population here, probably not as bad as Collingwood, but probably just a lower income demographic that lived here. But now it's really started to change. So this is just the main street here. You can see how beautiful just the and well kept it is. It's not the same as people thought it was in the 90s and early 2000s. So for the people that throw hate on me talking about this, I mean, like, I'd suggest you should go there and you should see the type of people that live there and the numbers it's done, because this is a suburb I would buy for investment. I probably wouldn't live there, but investing, it makes sense. So let's have a look just at that. This is the location. You can see right there, there's basically no public housing in Kensington. There is a bit of industrial land sort of towards the West Melbourne side and North Melbourne side, but I mean, you're on the train line there and literally, I mean, there's not much public housing. It's mostly smaller terrace and detached homes. And just look at the demographics here. 2,216 weekly median household income. 2,162 monthly mortgage repayments. So the average person here can afford their mortgage repayments in a week's worth of work, which is crazy, which is really good. And I mean, you get like 9.5% growth here long term. So it's crazy numbers. And I've found stuff with even, again, close, like late 3s to 4% yield, which is really good numbers for somewhere that's like 3Ks to Melbourne CBD. So you can't go wrong here. If everyone that doesn't like it, just reach out and buy somewhere else. You don't need to buy in Kensington if you don't like it. But I'm telling you, great buying here. I'm still picking up things for like $1 million flat here. I had one recently actually for 960, which is a really, really good deal, funny enough. So anyway, that's Kensington and that's the suburbs I think you should consider in investing in Melbourne's inner city. Look, we're coming to the end of this video, but for everyone that's watching and wanting to take their investing or home purchasing journey to the next level, whether that be for both livability purposes and long-term financial purposes, because I can do definitely both under this, I strongly recommend you reaching out via www.compoundinvest.com.au. I guarantee no one take care of you like I do, and I guarantee you'll get the best service and you will only deal with me. You won't deal with some 19-year-old who doesn't know what they're talking about. But then again, I look forward to you reaching out and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Thanks, guys.